Does that work to swap with you?
You don't have a microphone?
It does work.
None of them are working.
That was one thing. This one, yeah, it is. I just work. Just keep it here. It's working. Switch back on.
All right, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
All right, and this might be static. All right, so we're just gonna make the best of it.
Keep it close to your mouth.
Gotcha. So first off, hello and welcome to the 13th District of the Virginia House of Delegates. My name is Danica Rome, and I am grateful to represent the people of the city of Manassas Park and the Prince William County portions of Haymarket, Gainesville, and my lifelong home, Manassas, where I served as your local reporter for the Gainesville and the Prince William Times from 2006 to 2015 and authored more than 2,500 news stories on your behalf. I grew up attending Loch Lomond Elementary School right here in the 13th District before spending the next 13 years at Catholic schools, sometimes waiting until 6:30 or 7 o'clock at night, waiting for my mom to come pick me up from All Saints Catholic School in Manassas as she battled Route 28 all the way back from Dulles to Manassas, a community she's now been making for 40 years. So when I launched my 2017 campaign, I ran on fixing Route 28, raising teacher pay, and expanding Medicaid. That's why I brought home $20 million extra a year back to Northern Virginia for us to use, that we can use to fix Route 28. When I whipped the votes to pass the largest transportation funding bill in the last 6 years. And on November 20th, because of my Route 28 corridor improvement study, my constituents will have the ability to vote on innovative intersection designs that they want to see to make Route 28 in Yorkshire a safer and quicker commute for all of us. That's November 20th at Cougar Elementary School in Manassas Park at 6 p.m., so come on out. That's also why I voted to raise teacher pay by 5% across the board, so Prince William and Manassas Park teachers can afford to live in the same communities where they live, or where they work. And with that same vote, I helped expand Medicaid to 400,000 uninsured Virginians, including 3,800 of my constituents, such as Kara, an amputee who had life-saving surgery within the month of her being insured. And I've been accessible and accountable to my constituents, holding 22 local town hall meetings in my first 22 months in office, while working with them on my successful legislation since signed into law to feed hungry kids, to make local governments more transparent, and to make child support payments more accurate. Thank you.
Delegate Carter. I failed to explicitly say this when I said we were following the same rules as before, but if everyone could just please hold everything at the very, 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 very end, we can applaud for all four candidates all together. It'll get us through this much quicker, and I won't have to yell at everyone, and we'll all be happy. Okay, go ahead.
I'm Lee Carter. I'm the delegate from the 50th District, which is the city of Manassas and parts of western Prince William County. And for the last 2 years, I have been proud to represent my 84,000 constituents and fight to make Virginia a better commonwealth for all, to make it a place where wealth is truly common. I don't come from a typical background for a politician. I'm not a doctor or a lawyer. I'm an enlisted Marine Corps veteran and an electronics repairman who ran for office because I got hurt at work. And I found out firsthand that Virginia's worker protections are completely subpar. So subpar, in fact, that we've been ranked dead last for working conditions out of all 50 states plus DC for the last 2 years running. And I have been fighting for my 2 years in office to make sure that this is the kind of place where everyone can live and work and not have to worry about how they're going to put food on the table, not have to worry about how they're going to make the rent, not have to worry about whether or not they can afford to see a doctor, not have to worry about whether or not they can afford to put their kids through college, and not have to worry about whether or not they're going to be discriminated against based on who they are, who they love, or who they were born to be. We've had some success in the last 2 years, thanks to my fellow colleagues that were elected in 2017, Delegate Rome, Delegate Guzman, and others. We were able to expand Medicaid, which got 314,000 people on health insurance that did not have it 2 years ago. But there's still 500,000 Virginians who have no health insurance whatsoever, and there's over 1 million Virginians who have health insurance, but it's too expensive for them to use it. So until we truly have a commonwealth where we have health care for all, housing for all, and good union jobs for all, my fight is not done. I ask for your support on November 5th so that I can have 2 more years to continue that fight for working people here in the Commonwealth of Virginia.
Thank you, Delegate Carter. Ms. McGinn, if your mic is
Okay.
working. Yes, there we go. Okay.
Are we on?
Yes.
Okay. Hi everyone, my name's Kelly McGinn, and I'd like to thank the Committee of 100 and the League of Women Voters for hosting this candidate forum tonight, and Matt Smith, of course, from WTOP for serving as our moderator. It's great to see you, Danica, Lee, and of course Ian. And I also want to commend each and every one of you for coming out tonight, because we all know we're missing the opening of the Nats in Game 2 of the World Series. Go Nats! I have always loved the Nats and their infectious joy and great teamwork. And I view politics at its best like that. People working together on challenging issues and delivering a win in the form of solutions. Like any tough series, I knew this campaign would be hard, but I've honestly been floored by the steady drumbeat of vicious attacks on my character and outright lies about who I am and what I believe. Well, I'm not chasing those pitches into the dirt, because that's not the type of person I am, and I know it's not what the people of our district want. And if you vote for me, I'll conduct myself the same way as your delegate, with integrity and honor, and I'll treat people of both parties the way I'd like to be treated. My whole life has been about trying to help people. In my professional career as a human rights lawyer, as a mom for the past 16 years since we adopted my oldest child, and now as a candidate, my motivation has never been about being famous or making a lot of money, but about figuring out how I can use my ability and time to help others. I am an unabashed lover of this Commonwealth, this country, and all the freedoms that we enjoy under our Constitution. And I'd like to bring my life experience as a mom and a legal advocate to the floor of the House of Delegates and be your voice for the things that really matter most on the ground here in Prince William County and Manassas Park. It would be a great honor to serve this community, and I'm very grateful to be here with you tonight.
Thank you. Thank you. Councilman Lovejoy.
Good evening. I think the best thing that I could possibly do to earn votes tonight would be to try to dismiss as early as possible so we can all go watch the Nats game. So, but I am going to take my 2 minutes. So my name is Ian Lovejoy, and it's been an absolute honor of my life to serve the residents of the city of Manassas for the last 7.5 years. It's a position that I was elected to in 2012 and re-elected to in 2016, and in that time, I've made it my sole focus to engage, reach out, and try to improve the lives of everyone in my constituency. And I'm honored that they were willing to send me back to the City Council in 2016. Privately, I own a recruitment firm that I started 5 years ago in the basement of my house, and it has grown to be one of the largest in the United States. So suffice it to say, my passion is jobs. I think the way that you make sure people can put a roof over their head is to ensure that they have good jobs. The way that you ensure people have good health care is to ensure that they have good jobs. The way to ensure that people are prosperous, free, and can live to their full potential is to ensure that they have jobs. And as a city councilman, I'm incredibly proud of the record that I have and others who serve on our city council for what we have done, not only in the city of Manassas, but to the benefit of the region around us. The city of Manassas is the hotbed for the last several years in major economic development improvements that has led the region. We are the site of the largest capital investment in modern history of $3 billion, that's billions with a B, which will not only bring much needed tax revenue when we tax that development, but also it brings 1,000 good benefited jobs. And that's in Micron alone. We also have Aurora Flight Sciences, Boeing, Lockheed Martin, all which are flourishing and bringing good jobs to this part of the Beltway. So my passion will continue to be, as I always have, to represent this entire community, to be your energetic advocate, to show up to things, and ultimately to be your champion to bring jobs and success to this entire region. I thank you, I thank the moderator, I thank the Committee of 100 and the League of Women Voters, and I thank you for the opportunity to be able to speak with you tonight. Thank you.
All right, thank you all. Okay, get it out now. We're done. Okay. Okay, we will consider that applause for all 4 candidates. Everyone has cheered. We're good to go. We're going to try to get to questions and move through them as quickly as possible. Of course, you got me, so of course we're going to start with transportation. We started this end first, we'll start at that end. This time, I have been provided with these questions, which I have slightly reshaped from the Committee of 100 and the League of Women Voters. On transportation, yes or no, do you support the Prince William County bond referenda in this election? And then what are your plans and what would you actually get done for transportation if you get a 2-year term in Richmond?
So I think that the bond referendum has The reason we're having the bond referendum is frankly unfortunate. We should not have to have a bond referendum right now to support transportation needs in Prince William County. We need to get our fair share from Richmond to cover the cost of these projects, particularly the Godwin extension, which is a major part of the bond referendum. So I think that as we pivot to these separate tactics to fund things, meaning tolls, taxing districts, and local bond referendums, it is admitting to some extent failure of our ability to secure our fair share in revenue that we need for transportation. Smart Scale does not work properly. We do not get our fair share of transportation money out of Richmond because Smart Scale actually penalizes us because of the unique way our transportation solutions need to go. So I'm going to be advocating for Smart Scale reform and push to make sure we get our fair share instead of pivoting to tactics which are essentially just taxing ourselves more when we're not getting what we rightfully are owed from Richmond.
Yes. As far as the bond referendum goes, I completely echo what Ian said. You know, it's really, I've knocked thousands and thousands of doors, and people are so hot about the traffic problems in this region. I mean, it's really become, it's no longer just an inconvenience. We're dealing with safety problems. My own son was hauled into traffic court when he pulled over to help a man out of a vehicle because there's increasing accidents and road rage on 28, and it's crushing our local economy. So we've got to do something about it. The bond referendum we shouldn't be paying for, but here we are. And like Ian said, we absolutely need to make sure we are getting state and federal funding. My opponent ran in 2017 to fix 28. And unfortunately, despite television commercials saying that, you know, progress has been made, I see no progress. And the people I'm talking to on doors are not seeing it either. In fact, Delegate Rome voted to divert resources that could have fixed 28 from NVTA to Metro. I loved Metro when I lived in the city, but the reality is that it doesn't serve our community here.
Thank you. Delegate Carter.
Thank you. So I agree that I'm not going to step on the county for doing what they have to do to make up for the shortfall in transportation funding that's been coming from Richmond. The Republican majority in Richmond does not see transportation investment in Northern Virginia as a priority. And in fact, the Republican caucus chair, Delegate Tim Hugo, who is another Prince William County and Fairfax County delegate, has been leading the charge for more tolls and for taking money away from the Northern Virginia Transportation Authority. That's why I've been proud to stand with Delegate Rome to fight back against those cuts to NVTA and NVTC and to make sure that we are not putting more toll booths on our roads. Delegate Rome and I believe, share the title for the most anti-tolling delegates in the House. So that's what you can expect for the next 2 years for me, is continuing to fight to make sure that Richmond is paying for the transportation priorities that Richmond is responsible for, and we're not funneling that responsibility back down onto the counties.
When you talk about integrity and honor, that also comes with telling the complete story on any given piece of legislation that comes before us within the House of Delegates. And so when I hear an attack saying that I would ever divert funding from Route 28, the number1 issue that I have prioritized for almost 3 years now, since I kicked off my first campaign on January 7th or January 13th or January 3rd, 2017, is absolutely ridiculous. And the reason I tell you that is because I voted on a procedural vote to send the bill to the governor, the very flawed Metro bill to the governor, specifically to ask for the funding amendments that the governor then sent down and that the Republican majority on a party line vote voted to kill. I am the only candidate in this district. I'm just going to put this down for a second. It's not working well. I am the only candidate in this race who, number one, has a history of actually bringing home the transportation dollars that we need. Number two, if you want to see progress, why don't you go up to Centerville and look at the I-66 interchange under construction right now. And by next year, every traffic light between I-66 and Lawrence Park in the north will be removed. Meanwhile, Route 28 is going to be widened from 4 to 6 lanes, and if it wasn't for Delegate Hugo, we could have gotten that 678 hybrid, and I am committed, and I am the only candidate in this race who actually has a plan to pursue that hybrid funding.
All right, thank you. We're going to try to keep moving on to as many topics as we can here. We're going to move on to healthcare now. We are we heard about Medicaid expansion a bit in the opening statements, so we're going to focus on some other issues that have been big in Richmond. So what legislation would you introduce or support, or if any, regarding abortion issues and regarding, sorry, hard to read the questions. Regarding abortion issues, we're going to start with Ms. McGinn. The question is about abortion rights or lack of it. Well, I was going I'm going to my bullet points, and this is where we're at. So,
so could you repeat the question?
yeah, I mean, essentially the question is, what would you support or oppose as far as changes or not changes to abortion law?
Okay. Well, first of all, I have been, for most of my adult life, I've been active in the pro-life movement because I believe we need more compassion for women when they find themselves facing an unexpected pregnancy. I'm an adoptive mother. One of the most amazing moments of my life was watching my own son be born. And I feel like this, the choice is an empty promise for most women who really don't have many choices when they're facing an unplanned pregnancy. So when it comes to legislation, I'd like to find ways to make more choices for women, for adoption, and for care, for support when they're facing an unplanned pregnancy. But I'll tell you, what we're facing in Virginia right now in abortion is a bill that would have allowed babies to be killed right before birth, and that is absolutely wrong.
Everyone, the candidates will have an opportunity to respond. The candidates will have an opportunity to respond. Please.
When I become the delegate, I will be pleased to vote against a bill that would kill children on the verge of birth. We're better than that, and the American people agree with me. 80% of Americans are against late-term abortion, and even 66% of pro-choice people agree that that is going too far. That is not the Virginia that I moved to with my husband, and I think we can do better than that. And I'm frankly ashamed that that bill was a legislative priority for the Democratic Party, and that my opponent has a 100% voting record from Planned Parenthood, and is a reproductive rights star. I find that very sad.
Thank you, Delegate Carter. Yeah, we'll come down the line.
Thank you. So it wasn't my opponent that said it, but I can't let outright lies about the content of the bill stand. When we're talking about Delegate Kathy Tran's bill, what that bill did was change the number of doctors required to authorize an emergency life-saving procedure from 3 to 1. There are parts of this Commonwealth where you can't get 3 doctors at 2 o'clock in the morning. So when we're talking about Kathy Tran's bill, we need to talk about what's actually in the bill, not the lies that Delegate Todd Gilbert told about the bill, not the lies that the President of the Not the lies that the President of the United States told about the bill, but we can certainly talk about the death threats that all of the patrons of that bill received as a result of those lies. So I am proud to have a 100% pro-choice voting record because I believe that politicians in Richmond do not have the right to stand between people who can get pregnant and their medical care providers when making a decision about what to do in their lives.
I want to start off just by saying in this case that as I look around the room today, I know there are a lot of people in this room who feel very strongly one way or another about this, and it comes from a lot of personal reflection, and it comes for some people as a matter of faith, and for some people as a matter of lived experience. I respect what your worldview is. I respect how you got here. I respect where you are in your life on this. At the same time, when I hear discussions about that we need to be more compassionate to women here, that doesn't include harassing them along Sudley Road for 15 years when you were protesting a women's clinic being closed in the first place. Second on this, what my challenger did not tell you is that she supports a complete and total ban on abortion, including in cases of rape and incest. When she talks about Virginia becoming more like New York and California, she wants to make it more like Alabama, South Carolina, and Georgia. And when it comes to the honesty portion of this, there is only one candidate in this race who has been rated false by PolitiFact on this very issue, and it's my challenger in this race. The fact of the matter is, right now. Here,
Let's let Councilman Lovejoy go, and then we can, yeah.
So I try to live my values and to particularly donate where I think my values lead me and where I think the most good can be done. So one of the charities that I like to support is Carried to Full Term, which is a very prominent charity here in Prince William County that supports and helps women through their pregnancy and through bringing the child to full term. I think we need more of that. I think that we need people to support women. I think we need folks to work through these charities and nonprofits to lower the desire to get abortions by insulating these women with support and love from our community. Particularly to the question, no, I do not support the Kathy Tran bill. The thing that we generally have agreed on, where there's been a détente on the abortion issue, is the concept of aborting a healthy baby that could theoretically be induced into labor, be born, and survive outside of the womb. That has been off limits. The Kathy Tran law erodes the safety measures we have in place to ensure that that ultimate tragedy won't happen. And what Danica was referencing, where the PolitiFact got it, is that she disagrees with this bill as well. So I'm with Danica on that one.
Okay. We have very limited rebuttal only on the particular issue we're fixing. Yeah, there was a direct attack. There was a direct attack. If there's this particular issue you want to correct.
I will be brief. Delegate Rome accused me of protesting outside an abortion clinic. I prayed outside an abortion clinic.
If we're going to react this way, I can't allow the issues to be corrected either way. So we need to either not react and allow the candidates to hit the issues, or we're not going to do it. So
I love women, and I helped any number of women that didn't feel they had a choice, who came to me and asked for help. They were being forced to have an abortion. So I really object to the assertion that prayer is protest. Secondly, with respect to the Kathy Tran bill and the PolitiFact, that was a hit job by my opponent. Basically, I took Danica at her word when she said she was 100% pro-choice. I believed her because, you know, I had reason to.
Okay.
She's
all right, time. Time. 30 seconds. We need to.
Just very quickly.
The rebuttals were 30 seconds. That was. I don't think we needed another there. I think we're good. We're going to move on to the equally uncontroversial topic of firearms. Beginning with Delegate Carter, what bills would you introduce, support, oppose regarding either, or if any, regarding changes to gun laws in Virginia?
Thank you so much. So as I said in my opening remarks, I'm an enlisted veteran of the United States Marine Corps, and if there's one thing that Marines understand, it's guns. Right? So fortunately, I sit on the House Committee on Militia, Police, and Public Safety, where we would deal with gun bills, if not for the fact that literally every single gun bill was killed on party line votes in subcommittee number 1, which I'm not on. So we have a number of areas where we can improve our firearm policy to make sure that people are safer. I think that just about everyone in this room agrees that you shouldn't be able to purchase a firearm without passing a background check. I think that just about from children. And I think that just about everybody in this room agrees that if you own a firearm and it's stolen, you have a responsibility to report that theft so that that firearm is not being used in crimes without people going out there and looking for it. So those are some bills that I would support to make people in this Commonwealth safer.
Thank you.
every day. All right, can you hear me all right? All right. So we're just going to keep trying with this until it works here. Every single day, I wear this ribbon right here underneath my member of the Virginia House of Delegates pin. The reason I wear this pride ribbon is it was given to me from the Florida State Rep, whose district is directly next over to Pulse nightclub, where so many people were massacred and so many others were wounded. And every single day that I wear this, I'm reminded of what happens when politicians go down to Richmond and talk a good game, do nothing, and people die because of inaction. That's why, number one, when we had our special session about preventing gun violence, I signed on to 3 bills that I knew were data-driven, had existing precedent for working, and had existing bipartisan support. including extreme risk protection orders that preserve due process so that people who are a threat to themselves or another person and they have a history of violence cannot then attack someone else with that firearm.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. There you go. Hello?
Yes, there we go.
Hello? There we go. Okay. This is it's a very passionate issue. There's an incredible amount of passion on all sides. And to some extent it requires a dispassionate analysis because we have a lot of good information, we have a lot of good data, and I think we need to look into that and follow where it leads. There are about 1,000 gun-related deaths in the Commonwealth each year. About 1,000. 600 of those are suicide-related. Of those 600, about 20% are specifically veteran suicide-related. So that tells me that the overwhelming driver behind gun violence and behind gun deaths in the Commonwealth of Virginia is going to be very keenly mental health related. We have a community mental health problem in the Commonwealth of Virginia. How we're identifying people, how we're reporting people, how we're getting people help. And if we want to alleviate the bulk of gun violence in the Commonwealth, we have to work on the mental health issues and how we're dealing with public mental health in the Commonwealth. And
Thank you.
thank you.
Yes, as a mother of four, I am horrified by the incidences of gun violence in our country. Mass shootings obviously are horrific. And obviously, you know, continuing apace, they have to be stopped. We also have, just as Ian said, 1,000 people in 2017 died through gun violence. A lot of that was individual shootings, but again, the mental health, 60% suicide is completely unacceptable. So we really need to look at helping people and making sure that mental health services are more available. I would say, as far as I'm concerned, as your delegate, everything will be on the table when we talk about you know, how to prevent this violence. We need to keep guns out of the hands of people who mean to do us harm and people who are sick. By the same token, good people, you know, law-abiding citizens should be able to rely on their Second Amendment right to protect themselves in their own home. So it's a balancing question. But I am very interested in evidence-based solutions to gun violence. You know, there have been, I look forward to hearing the crime controls report.
Thank you.
Okay.
All right, let's try to keep the deep breaths. I appreciate all the support on that one, guys. If we can keep it rolling, that's great. So starting with Danica, Delegate Rome, sorry, this time, talking about work. Would you support a $15 minimum wage, and then your opinion on Virginia's right to work laws, and any other related changes that you would offer or oppose?
All right, does this one work better? Great. All right, so first off, I'm already on record having co-patron legislation that would gradually bring us to a $15 minimum wage, because a living wage in the Commonwealth of Virginia, where we have the lowest minimum wage in the entire country at the federal minimum, where we are $1.50 behind West Virginia on the minimum wage, is so wildly unacceptable when it is so much more expensive to live in Northern Virginia than it is to live in anywhere in West Virginia. And in regards to minimum wage, regards to other mentions here, I support a livable wage. I support making sure that Virginia is not ranked the worst state for workers, while we're ranked the best state for business, because that means that the metrics are off. And what I also want to talk about here, just in closing here, is that if you want to make sure that we can bring high-paying jobs out into this area, we have to find a cost-effective way to get the VRE out to Innovation Park so we become more competitive with Northern Virginia.
Council, we'll go that way this time, yeah. Sorry, yeah, Councilman Aldrich. And then
It's been brought up several times that we are the worst place for workers, and I think it's important to look at that study and try to understand where that came from. The people who produced that study, ask yourself, how many workers did they talk to? And the answer is none. They didn't actually talk to Virginia workers to ascertain what they think about their working environment. When you actually do studies on worker satisfaction in Virginia and ask workers, we rank, a recent meta study said we were in the top 6 in the United States. Another study said we were in the top 3rd. So I think that when we're out there saying we're the worst place to do business for workers, we need to keep in mind that there's an agenda behind that, the way they do that analysis, and they didn't actually talk to workers. I do not support a repeal of right to work. That should come as a shock to nobody. And I'll simply say that when it comes to the $15 minimum wage, we're asking the wrong question. We need to figure out why so many people are in those jobs and finding it impossible to escape entry-level positions that aren't providing breadwinner earnings. It is a lazy question. Okay, thank you.
As far as the minimum wage goes, I believe, of course, that everyone deserves a living wage. But what I really fear is if we push the minimum wage so high, and let's face it, most of the folks that are entering the job market are young people, are teenagers, it's their first job. If we have such a high rate of wage, local businesses will not be able to afford to bring those kids on, and that's very disturbing. I don't know if you've walked in McDonald's or even a grocery store lately, but automation is really threatening entry-level positions, and that worries me. I want to work with an individual, with a person, and I want my kids to have a chance to learn how to work. And frankly, let's look for people who are depending on that wage to survive. Let's look at a fair wage, but let's not put businesses in a position where they can't employ people that they want to. Right to work, I absolutely support maintaining right to work, and here's why. Virginia is a place that companies come to because it's a wonderful place to open a business. I don't know if you've been to Wegmans, but those are happy employees. They are not a union shop. And I've gone up to these smiling employees and asked them, why are you so happy? And they say, because they take care of me here. And we don't need to eliminate right to work to have happy employees.
Thank you. On the minimum wage, I support raising the minimum wage to $15, $20, $12, which in current dollars would be about $17.80, and I support allowing localities to go above that at the discretion of their own local governing bodies, because that's recognizing that it's more expensive to live in Arlington than it is to live in Abington. I introduced the bill to repeal the so-called right to work, which is an intentional misnomer. It has nothing to do with whether or not you have the right to go to work. What it does is it forces unions to bargain on behalf of people who do not contribute to the benefits they receive from having a union in their workplace, and it prohibits unions and employers from negotiating an exclusive labor contract. Now, you can get an exclusive contract with a supplier of paper. You can get an exclusive contract with a supplier of healthcare. But in the Commonwealth of Virginia, you cannot get an exclusive contract with a labor union to supply your workforce, and that is not right.
Thank you. Sorry, I was trying to figure out how many more questions I was allowed to ask, and I'm told I'm limited. With time, we're down to one or two more. So, that's unfortunate, but it's where we are. And everyone has websites where you can learn more about them if you need to, or they might have knocked on your door already. Education, we heard a lot about on the previous panel. Where am I at? Oh, Ms. McGinn, we'll start with this one. Question is about whether Prince William County and the local jurisdictions get enough money from Richmond. If they do or do not, what you would do to address that, and any other changes that you would propose regarding education and schools.
Sure. Well, I'm proud that our teachers got a 5% pay increase this year, and I would support continuing that. Our teachers are critical. Our children are spending all day with them. They deserve to be well paid, and I met with some of the teachers this summer and found a lot of them were digging into their own pockets to take care of our kids. Another huge priority for me, though, is just safety. Right now in Prince William County, every high school and every middle school has a school safety resource officer. I believe all the elementary schools deserve one too, so that we can all feel that our children are safe. I absolutely believe in career and technical education. I would like to support more programs for that. Not everyone needs to go to college. I have met so many small business people in Prince William County who told me that programs in the public schools made such a difference in terms of their future. Also, I believe we want to increase instructional time in class and have less administrative duties for our teachers and our guidance counselors.
Thank you.
Thank you. I want to thank Ms. McGinn for supporting the teacher pay raise that Delegate Rome and I delivered on. That's very much appreciated. In fact, I actually put in a budget amendment that would have gone above and beyond the teacher pay raise that we got by providing state funds to cover the portion that is currently required to be put up by the localities, so that localities would not have to pony up their own money to take advantage of that 5% teacher pay raise. That's a budget amendment that was supported by the city of Manassas. and I saw, I believe, every member of the city council except for my opponent in my office telling me that they supported that budget amendment, which ultimately did not pass. I am a firm believer that your zip code should not determine the quality of your child's education, which is why I support massively increasing the state's share of education funding and decoupling education funding from local property taxes, because it really should not be the case that you get a much better quality education for children in Arlington than you do in Abingdon.
In order to stand out in the General Assembly on the issue of education, you have to find your niche. You have to find an issue that so many other people do not necessarily focus on. And I listened to my constituents, specifically to Adele Settle from Gainesville, who asked me to carry legislation to make sure that we could feed hungry children in school. And this year, I was proud that I authored and passed the bill, HB 2400, that requires every school district in Virginia to have an online portal for parents to be able to apply for free and reduced meals for their children. Because a hot breakfast and a hot lunch should be part of the social contract, not based on the income of a child's parents. It is so important that not only do we think about this in terms of funding, and of course, I was so proud to deliver on that 5% teacher pay raise that I campaigned on and promised in 2017. But at the same time, as I look around the room right now, I also realize that mental health in our schools, that dealing with trauma-informed care for our students is so wildly important, especially as I know Delegate Guzman put in a bill to make sure that we could actually bring down our counselor-to-student ratio to 250 to 1. We got it to a part of the way, and let's get it done.
So I was at the meeting in your office, Lee, but you were so disrespectful and so incredibly late, 45 minutes, that I had to leave, so I wasn't there when you finally got there. Now, how can we improve education, the interrelationship between the state and the localities? To me, there's two variables. One is how much money the localities are getting, and then the other variable is how they're being told to spend it. And we don't talk enough about that second variable. What I would like to do is give localities the ability to take that pot of money, appeal to the state school board, and request permission to spend it in a different way. Allow the localities more control and more flexibility over the money that the Commonwealth is giving them, because we recognize Prince William County, Manassas is not Southwest Virginia. It is not other parts of Virginia that have different wants and needs. So allow our localities to spend their money more flexibly and differently, and see how far that gets us. Secondly, cost to compete. We need to aggressively look at restoring cost to compete, which is the differential that paid Northern Virginia teachers more because they recognized that the cost of living was more. It went out during the recession. It's never been fully restored, and we need to fight to bring it back. Thank you.
Delegate Carter has a factual correction to make in a rebuttal.
Yes. First of all, the reason I was late for that meeting is I was on the floor of the House doing my job. And second, I find it laughable that you would talk about anybody disrespecting anybody, since it's been 6 weeks since I've had a single constituent ask me about anything other than how disgusting the personal smears in your campaign have been.
Okay. I've been given leave to ask 2 more questions instead of 1 more question. So the first of the last 2 questions, starting, I lost track of where I was. Councilman Lovejoy? No, I didn't start. Oh, okay. Delegate Carter. Okay. Starting with the, obviously census is coming up. Do you support a change to redistricting methods? If so, is there a way that you would support that could actually happen that would be nonpartisan?
Yes, I support a change to our redistricting methods. I don't believe that we should have politicians picking the voters. I think the voters should pick the politicians. We had a good nonpartisan redistricting commission bill that was unfortunately gutted by the Republican majority, and they put in place this ridiculously over-complex, bipartisan, legislators pick a board of people that were pre-selected by the Supreme Court of Virginia, things like that. But unfortunately, we're at the point in the constitutional amendment process where the only thing we are allowed to vote on is the second reading of that particular bill, which is insufficient, but it is an improvement over the current process, and so I will support it.
The one thing about that constitutional amendment that I voted for and that Delegate Card voted for is that we know that there is going to be criteria legislation that will have to be a companion to that constitutional amendment when it comes up for the second and final vote before it goes out to you as the voters come 2020. It is so important that we actually have criteria within this legislation that make sure that we are dealing with districts that are compact, contiguous, in compliance with the Civil Rights Act and the Voting Rights Act, and at the same time protects communities of interest. When I got into office, I said I support independent redistricting. It is not. All right, thanks.
Either one,
It was my understanding that non-political redistricting was voted on this year, and I am hearing a lot of whispering about the Democrats wanting to have a more political redistricting plan in the next year. I hope that is not the case, because when I talk to people on the doors, they are disturbed at the gerrymandering. They are disturbed at the ridiculous nature of the districts as they stand. So I would hope that the parties could come together and have a non-political plan and win the confidence of the people with respect to how the census data is used to create these districts.
I support the current plan, the bipartisan plan. I think that's an important aspect of the plan that's been mentioned up here. I do not think that is a bad thing. It's something that's been agreed to by both parties. It's got safety checks built in to ensure that the people who are selected are reasonable, and that the outcome is going to be much improved compared to what we have now. So I do support the redistricting plan that's currently in place. I don't feel inclined to change it, considering again, when the two parties manage to come together in good faith on something and negotiate something so complicated and political as redistricting and come out with a solution that both sides ultimately agree upon, I think it's important to see that through.
Keeping in mind that we will have closing statements momentarily, this is a question that I ask in all of my campaign interviews, which is, beyond all of this stuff that we all talk about, when people are deciding who to vote for, what makes you different? And that's a way harder question than it seems. We'll start with Councilman Lovejoy.
Thank you so much. I will say that I'm in a unique position where I was elected to the city council at a relatively young age. I was 29 when I was first elected, and it was a great city. It's a city that's definitely on the rise, but being much younger than most of the other people on the city council, I was able to lead the way and introduce sort of the new modern way of engaging with people. So you didn't see a lot of council people websites, a lot of council people Facebook pages. You didn't see newsletters, common things that we take for granted, but stuff that just hadn't been implemented. So I like to look at new and interesting and aggressive ways to reach out to the community, to engage the community, to bring the community into the political process. And ultimately, I view my role in the government as being your steward and your guide through interfacing with your government. And that's where I've been since I was elected, and that's the attitude that I brought with me for the last 7 years, and it's the same attitude that I'm going to bring with me as delegate for the 50th district. And I think that that's something that people have responded very well to in my tenure on the council, and it's something that I look forward to providing as your delegate.
Yes, well, I never planned to run for office. This is something I decided to do because this year I just discovered in Richmond, spending some time there, that we really, really need a more representative General Assembly. Specifically, we need more mothers who still have children under their roof. There are so many issues that we will be dealing with in the General Assembly and the House of Delegates this year. Transportation, education, healthcare, which we didn't get to unfortunately tonight. These are kitchen table issues, and we need moms at the table. I've dealt with terrible healthcare problems with my children. I know what it's like to face huge bills. We've dealt with a lot of educational problems, learning disabilities and the like. I want to bring that knowledge to Richmond and really advocate for people who who could use a mom at the table. So it's time to send in the mom and allow me to advocate for all these people at the doors who really do need someone in Richmond who cares.
Thank you. What makes me different is my background. As I said in my opening remarks, I don't come from the typical background for a politician. I'm a trailer park kid from North Carolina who fixed electronics and wanted to keep fixing electronics until I got hurt at work and realized that something had to change. And so in the time that I've been in Richmond, I have actually read every bill. That doesn't sound like a particularly revolutionary thing, but I promise you, those of you who have gone down and talked to your legislators, 99% of them don't. I actually read every bill, and I vote on every bill based on the language of that bill, not based on who's carrying it, not based on political considerations. I don't do what's easy. I do what's right. You know where I stand. I've brought a level of honesty to my campaign and my time in office that is unprecedented in Virginia politics. If you ask me a question, I will answer it honestly. People know where I stand on the issues, and they know what party I'm in, which is something that can't be said for everyone in my race.
Well, my challenger and I actually agree on one thing about the importance of bringing more moms to Richmond. And that's why I was proud to be one of those 11 Democratic moms who won in 2017 and has worked tirelessly to deliver on the core quality of life issues of the people of the 13th District. And at the same time, as I've done it, I've managed to bring change, even right here tonight, where the fact that we're actually having a debate is change for the 13th District. Meanwhile, what are the other things that I've actually done in Richmond to bring change? I actually passed a bill that I authored this year to increase more transparency in local government. I authored a bill that passed to make sure that child support payments are actually accurate in the first place. And as the first out-and-seated transgender state legislator in American history, I am proud to always support all of my constituents, no matter what they look like, where they come from, how they worship, if they do, or who they love, because this is their America too, and they deserve all the respect, dignity, protection, and accountability in the world from their elected officials who should welcome them because of who they are, not despite them.
We're almost at closing We're in closing statements. Again, if we could hold all reactions for anyone until the end, you can cheer as loud as you want. Everyone will know who you're cheering for. You all have stickers and buttons and everything else, okay? So we let the Democrats open, so we'll let the Republicans close, which means
the pain and heartbreak that she deals with every single day as a mom is not something that any other mother or any other parent throughout the Commonwealth of Virginia ever has to replicate. That's why I introduced HJ 138 last year, so we can make sure that suicidal ideation is actually recognized among students by the teachers, by not just teachers, but also any person who works in a school building in the first place. My constituent service record means meeting with Chrissy Falls, my subtly constituent in Manassas, so that we can talk about how best to keep our children safe, not just when they're in school, but when they're out of school as well. And as I look around and I see Rachel Kirkland and Jim Kirkland from Manassas Park, as well as Jacob here too, when their family asked me, what can you do to protect our son who is autistic and might age out of healthcare, I put in the bill to make sure that we would eliminate the age cap in autism-related healthcare coverage. And this year, I co-patroned a successful bill that eliminated all age restrictions after years and years and years of fighting for us to finally get that done so that every person has their healthcare needs met. This is why when I stood up and I fought for Medicaid expansion for 3,800 of my constituents, I made sure we got the job done. And it doesn't just end there. This is about making sure that all of your healthcare is treated as your healthcare, whether it's autism-related, whether it's the bill I put in for my amputee constituent, or whether it's my LGBTQ constituents who know what it is like I do to have your healthcare needs treated as an elective instead of following your doctor's orders. And the last thing I just want to tell you is welcome. I am so glad to every person who has joined us here in the 13th District because of who you are, not despite it. Welcome to the 13th District.
Thank you. Councilman Lovejoy.
You can't claim to be for the working man while doing everything you can to vote against them actually having jobs in your district. You can't actually sit with a straight face and claim to be so for the working man when you vote against 1,100 good, benefited, insured jobs in your own backyard that your actual residents can actually apply for and have. You can't claim to be for the constituents in your district when your own party tweets that you are so AWOL that they don't know where you've been and that you have not done constituent services in your district. You cannot toxify the business atmosphere in the 50th House of Delegates district and claim that you're trying to support people who simply want to work and do their jobs. It is the exact opposite. If you want to support people here in the 50th, if you want to support the working man, help them get jobs. Make it so that when people Google their leadership in this area, it's not toxic vitriol against employers. Believe it or not, if employers want to move here and employ people, they look up the elected officials, and when they see that you hate work, you hate business owners and you hate entrepreneurs, they are less likely to bring jobs to your district. That is atrocious, and it's not something that we should be standing for here in the 50th. The simple truth is, the simple truth is, I'm the only thing standing between you and a Nats game. So let's wrap this up. Thank you all for coming out this evening. Thank you to our hosts. I don't think it's a coincidence that I got my dues notification today for the committee of 100, so I'll definitely get that paid. And I don't want to cut off Kelly.
I'm actually
Kelly's the only thing
I'm the last thing standing
Don't worry, we
between you and
didn't.
the Nats game.
You were just worried. We're worried we forgot about you. We
No,
did not
I
forget
know,
about
don't worry.
Sorry.
So I'd like to thank the League of Women Voters and the Committee of 100 for the opportunity to appear here tonight, Max Smith for moderating my fellow candidates for a very good discussion, and all of you for staying and taking part in what is a very important part of the democratic process. So for the past 8 months, I've had the opportunity to get to know my neighbors by knocking thousands and thousands of doors and dialoguing with a diverse group of people. And we've talked about so many different issues, but you know the one thing pretty much every voter had in common. They are tired of typical politicians who tell them what they think they want to hear and promise solutions without delivering. They want a delegate in Richmond who gets what's going on here in Manassas Park, Manassas, Gainesville, and Haymarket, and who's going to be laser focused on fixing the problems that we discussed at the door. They are sick of partisan bickering. You've heard a little bit of it tonight. They're tired of what they're seeing in the mailbox, which is ugly vitriol, a lot of it directed toward me. I'm disgusted by what my opponent's been writing about me, all lies. And that's why I'm running, because after 20 years in my neighborhood, 16 as a mom, I know this community inside and out, and I want to deliver for us, for the things that my neighbors care most about. And I ask you for your vote tonight for a simple reason. I want to serve you and this community. I am not doing this to be famous, to get rich, for book deals, to travel around the country. I want to stay here, and I want to work for you every day and deliver for my family and for all of your families. I will give this job everything I've got, and I will follow the golden rule and honor every other human being I encounter as a delegate with dignity, and dare I say it, love. I've been through a lot over the years dealing with medical issues in our family, learning challenges with my kids. I've sat in a lot of traffic, and I want to bring these real-world experiences to Richmond to be your advocate. I truly believe we need more moms in Richmond who understand the problems that we face every day in our community. That moms think every day about how they're going to get their kids to school on time, how they're going to manage to pay the bills if they've got a big medical bill. And I'll conclude by just thanking you for this time, thank my family, and I hope to earn your vote on November 5th.
Thank you, everybody, for being here.